The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silent office. 16-year-old Alex sat in the worn leather chair across from Principal Henderson's desk, his mother beside him with tears streaming down her face. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Just 6 months ago, Alex had dreams of becoming an engineer. He'd stay up late watching videos about how bridges were built and how skyscrapers stood tall against winds. His teachers said he had potential. His grades weren't perfect, but they were good enough. But life has a funny way of changing everything in an instant. It happened on a Tuesday morning. Alex's father had left for his construction job like he did every day. He'd kissed Alex's mom goodbye, ruffled Alex's hair, and reminded his younger sister Amy to finish her homework. By noon, 2 police officers were at their door. There had been an accident at the construction site. Alex's father didn't make it. The funeral was a blur. Relatives came and went. People brought food. Everyone said they were sorry. But sorry doesn't pay the bills. Sorry doesn't put food on the table. Sorry doesn't cover the mortgage that was already 2 months behind. 3 weeks after the funeral, Alex found his mother sitting at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning, surrounded by bills and papers. Her eyes were red and swollen. She'd been crying again. When she saw Alex standing in the doorway, she tried to hide the overdue notices, but it was too late. He'd already seen them. The mortgage, the hospital bills from his father's final days, the credit cards his parents had maxed out trying to keep the family afloat. The total amount made Alex's stomach turn. His mother worked as a receptionist at a dental office. The pay wasn't great, but it was steady. After his father died, she picked up a second job cleaning offices in the evenings. She'd leave home at 7 in the morning and return at midnight. Alex watched her age years in just weeks. New lines appeared on her face. Her hands shook from exhaustion. And still, it wasn't enough. Amy was only 12. She needed new shoes. She needed school supplies. She needed someone to help her with homework and make sure she ate dinner. With their mother working constantly, that someone had to be Alex, so he made a decision. It wasn't easy. It wasn't what he wanted. But sometimes you don't get to choose what you want, he told his mother first. She broke down completely, begging him not to do it. She said they'd find another way. She said education was too important. But when Alex showed her the math he'd done, calculating her income against their expenses, she had no argument left. They were drowning, and someone needed to throw a lifeline. Now, sitting in Principal Henderson's office, making it official, the weight of that decision pressed down on Alex's chest. The principal tried to talk him out of it. He pulled up Alex's grades on the computer and pointed at the screen. "You're passing all your classes," he said, his voice kind but firm. "You have a future here. Don't throw it away." Alex wanted to laugh. A future? What future? The only future he could see was his family losing their home and living in their car. He'd seen it happen to other families in their neighborhood. Good people who'd hit hard times. One bad break, one lost job, one medical emergency, and everything falls apart. "I don't have a choice," Alex said quietly. "There are always choices," the principal replied. "We have programs, financial aid. We can work something out." But Alex had already looked into all of that. The aid wouldn't come until next semester. The programs had waiting lists. His family needed help now, not in 6 months. His mother signed the withdrawal papers with a shaking hand. Alex felt like he was signing away his entire life. His friends would go on to graduate. They'd go to college. They'd get good jobs. And what would he be doing? Working some dead-end job just to keep the lights on. The next Monday, instead of going to school, Alex put on his father's old work boots and walked to Eddie's auto garage on the east side of town. He'd heard they were hiring. The owner, an older man with grease permanently stained under his fingernails, looked Alex up and down. "You ever worked on cars before?" Eddie asked. "No, sir," Alex admitted. "But I'm a fast learner, and I'll work harder than anyone you've ever hired." Eddie studied him for a long moment. Maybe he saw something in Alex's eyes. Maybe he just needed the help. Either way, he nodded. "Minimum wage. You start tomorrow at 6 in the morning. Don't be late." Alex wasn't late, not that day or any day after. He showed up early, stayed late, and did whatever was asked of him. He swept floors. He organized tools. He changed oil and rotated tires. His hands got cut and bruised. His back ached. Oil stained his clothes no matter how much he washed them. His former classmates would drive by sometimes. He'd see them through the garage windows laughing and talking, heading to the mall or the movies. They'd glance at him in his dirty coveralls and look away quickly, embarrassed for him. Some crossed the street to avoid talking to him. Others whispered when they thought he couldn't hear. "Did you hear about Alex? Such a waste. He could have done something with his life." At night, Alex would come home exhausted. He'd help Amy with her homework, make sure she had dinner, and then collapse into bed. His mother's eyes would fill with tears every time she looked at him, guilt written across her face. But Alex never complained. Not once. Because every 2 weeks when he got his paycheck, he'd hand it to his mother. And slowly, painfully slowly, they started to catch up on the bills. The electricity stayed on. They had food in the fridge. Amy got her new shoes. It wasn't the life Alex had imagined, but it was their life. And he was going to make sure his family survived no matter what it took. What Alex didn't know yet was that this wasn't the end of his story. It was just the beginning. 6 months into working at Eddie's garage, Alex's hands had stopped bleeding when he gripped the wrenches. His body had adapted to the long hours and physical work. He could change a tire in his sleep now, but something inside him felt hollow. This couldn't be it. This couldn't be his entire life. It started with a random conversation. A customer had come in to get his car serviced, typing frantically on his laptop while he waited. Alex brought him his keys when the work was done. "What are you working on?" Alex asked, curious. The man looked up, surprised someone was interested. "Building a website for my business. Trying to figure out this code, but it's driving me crazy." Alex looked at the screen. Lines of colorful text filled it. "What's that?" "HTML and CSS. It's how websites are built," the man explained. "I'm a photographer, not a programmer. I should probably just pay someone to do this, but those guys charge thousands." After the man left, Alex couldn't stop thinking about it. Code, websites. People paid thousands for that? He grabbed his phone during his lunch break and searched for information. What he found made his heart race. People were learning this stuff online. For free. No college degree needed. No expensive classes. Just a computer and internet connection. There was one problem. Alex didn't have a computer. The family laptop had died 2 years ago and they'd never replaced it. On his salary, buying a new one would take months of saving. But the public library had computers. Free to use. That evening, after his shift ended at 6, Alex didn't go straight home. He went to the library. He sat down at one of the old desktop computers and typed in, "How to learn coding for free." The results overwhelmed him. Hundreds of websites, thousands of tutorials. Where did he even start? He picked one and began. The tutorial was for beginners, teaching something called Python. Alex read slowly, trying to understand. He copied the examples. Some worked. Most didn't. Error messages filled his screen. But he kept trying. When the library announced it was closing at 9, Alex couldn't believe 3 hours had passed. His eyes hurt from staring at the screen. His mind felt stuffed with new information. But for the first time in months, he felt something other than exhaustion. He felt hope. A routine developed. Wake up at 5, work at the garage from 6 to 6. Library from 6:30 to 9. Home by 9:30. Help Amy with homework, sleep, repeat. His mother noticed the change immediately. "Why are you coming home so late?" she asked, worry in her voice. "I'm learning something," Alex said. "Something that might help us." He didn't tell her what. Not yet. It felt too fragile, too uncertain. What if he failed? What if he couldn't figure it out? Better to stay quiet until he had something real to show. Weeks turned into months. Alex moved from basic tutorials to more complex projects. He built his first website. It was terrible. The colors clashed. The layout broke on mobile phones. But he'd built it. From scratch. Lines of code he'd written with his own hands. Eddie noticed Alex's exhaustion. "You're dragging lately. Everything okay?" "Yeah, just not sleeping much," Alex admitted. "Well, don't burn yourself out. A job's not worth killing yourself over." But Eddie didn't understand. This wasn't about the garage job. This was about something bigger. One evening at the library, Alex saw a flyer on the bulletin board. Small Business Web Design Contest. Win $500 and gain exposure for your portfolio. His hands trembled as he took a photo of it with his phone. He spent 2 weeks building a website for a fictional coffee shop. He watched YouTube tutorials on design. He studied websites he admired and tried to figure out why they worked. He tested everything on his phone during breaks at work. At night, he'd dream in code. He submitted it on the final day, minutes before the deadline. 3 weeks later, he got an email. He'd won third place. Not first, but third. $200 and his website featured on their blog. It wasn't much. But it was proof. Proof that he could do this. Proof that those hours weren't wasted. Alex showed his mother the email and the check. She cried. Not sad tears this time. Proud tears. What are you going to do with it? She asked. Reinvest it, Alex said. He'd been thinking about this. I need business cards. A better portfolio, maybe a cheap used laptop so I don't have to rely on the library. He used half the money to buy a 5-year-old laptop from a pawn shop. It was slow and the battery barely held a charge, but it was his. Now he could practice at home after Amy went to bed. With the other half, he printed business cards and created a simple one-page website advertising his services. Affordable web design for local businesses. He set his rates low. $50 for a basic website. He knew it was cheap, but he needed clients more than money. He started visiting local shops during his lunch breaks. The dry cleaner, the bakery, the barber shop. Most said no thanks. A few took his card to be polite, but clearly planned to throw it away later. Then he walked into Rosa's taqueria. The owner, an older woman with kind eyes, was struggling with her ancient desktop computer behind the counter. Can I help? Alex offered. She looked at him skeptically but stepped aside. Alex quickly fixed the issue. Basic stuff. Her browser had too many tabs open and was frozen. Thank you, she said, relief in her voice. I'm terrible with these things. Do you have a website? Alex asked, handing her his card. A website? No, too expensive. My nephew said it would cost thousands. I can do it for $50, she laughed. $50? What's the catch? No catch. I'm building my portfolio. You get a professional website. I get experience and something to show other clients. Everyone wins. Rosa studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. Okay, let's try it. Alex built Rosa's website in 3 days. He included photos of her food, her menu, location, and hours. Simple but clean, professional. When he showed it to her, Rosa's eyes went wide. This is beautiful. And you did this for $50. She paid him immediately and insisted he'd take an extra $20 for the excellent work. More importantly, she told her friends. Within 2 weeks, Alex had 3 more clients, then 5, then 8. He was still working at the garage, still exhausted all the time, still operating on 3 hours of sleep. But now he had something else. A side business, a path forward. The money wasn't much yet, a few $100s a month. But it was growing. And for the first time since sitting in that principal's office, Alex could see a future that wasn't just survival. He could see possibility. 3 years had passed since Alex dropped out of school. He was 19 now, and his side business had grown steadily. He'd built websites for over 40 local businesses. The money was better than what he made at the garage, but he still couldn't quit his day job. The family needed the stability of that steady paycheck, but something had been bothering him for months. Every time he met with a small business owner, he heard the same complaints. They struggled to keep track of their inventory. The restaurant owners didn't know which dishes were most popular or what ingredients they were running low on. The shop owners couldn't easily track which products sold well and which just collected dust on shelves. They all used complicated spreadsheets or expensive software that required hours of training to understand. Or worse, they tracked everything on paper, wasting hours counting stock manually. Alex knew there had to be a better way. Late one night, after finishing a website for a hardware store owner named Mr. Chen, he stayed an extra hour talking about the business. The hardest part isn't selling, Mr. Chen said, rubbing his tired eyes. It's knowing what to order. Last month I ran out of the most popular drill bits 3 times, but I have boxes of screwdriver sets nobody wants taking up space in my storage room. I'm losing money on both ends. Why don't you use inventory software? Alex asked. Mr. Chen laughed bitterly. Have you seen those programs? They cost thousands of dollars per year. Plus, I'd need to hire someone who knows how to use them. For a small shop like mine, it's not worth it. So I do it the old way, counting boxes every Sunday night. As Alex walked home that night, an idea began forming. What if there was something in between? Software that was affordable and simple enough that anyone could use it without training. Something built specifically for small businesses like Mr. Chen's. He spent the next 2 weeks researching. Every spare moment, he was looking at existing inventory systems, reading reviews, watching demonstrations. They all had the same problems. Too expensive, too complicated, too much. Small business owners didn't need fancy features. They needed basics. Track what comes in. Track what goes out. Know when to reorder. See what's selling and what's not. Simple. Alex started sketching out ideas on paper. Then he began coding. Not for a client this time. For himself. The work was different from building websites. More complex. More challenging. He had to learn new programming languages. Database management. User authentication security. Each problem led to 10 more problems. Months passed. Alex's savings account grew slowly from his web design work. He was up to almost $3,000. Not much, but it felt like a fortune to someone who'd grown up with nothing. His mother had been able to cut back to just one job. Amy was doing well in school. Things were stable. Maybe not comfortable, but stable. Then Alex made a decision that would change everything. He was sitting at the garage one Tuesday afternoon, changing brake pads on an old sedan, when the realization hit him. He'd been working on his inventory software for 8 months. It was good. Really good. But progress was too slow. Between the garage job and building websites for clients, he only had a few hours each week to work on it. If he wanted to finish it, if he wanted to make it something real, he needed time. Full time. That night he sat his mother down at the kitchen table. "I want to quit the garage," he said. His mother's face went pale. "What? Why? Did something happen?" "No, nothing bad. I just need to focus on something else." He explained the inventory software, the need he'd identified, his plan to finish it and sell subscriptions to small businesses. "How long will it take?" she asked carefully. 4 months, maybe 5 if I run into problems." "And you'll have no income during that time?" "I have my savings. $3,000. We can make it work." His mother closed her eyes. He could see her doing the math in her head, calculating bills and expenses. "That's your money, Alex. You earned it. You should use it for yourself. This is for myself. And for us. Mom, if this really works, we could have something stable, something that doesn't require me destroying my body at a garage or staying up until midnight building websites." She was quiet for a long time. Finally, she nodded. "Okay, but if the money runs out and it's not finished, you have to promise me you'll find another job immediately." "I promise." Alex gave Eddie his 2 weeks' notice. Eddie was disappointed but understanding. "You're a good worker, kid. If things don't work out, there's always a spot for you here." The first month was incredible. Alex worked 12-hour days on the software. He converted the dining room into his office, his cheap laptop surrounded by notebooks and coffee cups. He built features, tested them, broke them, and rebuilt them better. The second month was harder. The technical problems multiplied. Features that should have taken days took weeks. His savings dwindled faster than expected. Hosting the software on servers cost money. Tools and subscriptions he needed cost money. Everything cost money. By month 3, Alex was eating 1 meal a day to stretch the budget. He'd wake up with his heart racing, afraid he'd made a terrible mistake. His mother would find him at 3 in the morning, staring at lines of code that wouldn't work, his head in his hands. "Maybe you should take a break," she'd suggest gently. "Find a part-time job while you finish this." "No," Alex would say. "I'm too close. I just need a little more time." By month 4, his savings were gone. He'd maxed out a credit card paying for server costs. The anxiety was crushing. Every day felt like being underwater, running out of air, struggling to reach the surface. Finally, after 4.5 months, it was done. The software worked. It was clean, simple, and did exactly what it needed to do. Alex called it SimpleStock. He set up a website offering a free 30-day trial, then subscriptions for $25 per month. Cheaper than anything else on the market. He launched it on a Tuesday morning. His first potential client. By the end of launch day, 12 people had signed up for the free trial. 12. Alex had hoped for hundreds. He'd dreamed of thousands. 12 people felt like a joke. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, calculating how long until the credit card bill came due. How he'd explain to his mother that he'd failed. How he'd go crawling back to Eddie asking for his job back. The weight of his decision crushed down on him. He'd gambled everything on this, and it looked like he'd lost. What Alex didn't know was that one of those 12 people would change everything, but that wouldn't happen for 3 more agonizing weeks, and during that time Alex would come closer to giving up than he'd ever been in his life. The 3 weeks after launch were the darkest of Alex's life. Every morning he'd wake up and check the dashboard. How many free trial users had converted to paid subscriptions? 0. How many new signups? 1 or 2 on good days, none on most days. His credit card statement arrived. Minimum payment due, $175. Money he didn't have. He'd been applying to jobs again, even called Eddie about coming back to the garage. Eddie said he'd already hired someone else but would keep Alex in mind if another position opened up. Alex felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, watching everything crumble. His mother found him sitting in the dark one evening, laptop closed, just staring at nothing. "Talk to me," she said softly, sitting beside him. "I failed," Alex said, his voice hollow. "I thought I was so smart. Thought I saw something nobody else did. But I was wrong. I wasted our money, your time, everything." "You tried something difficult," his mother said. "That's not failure. That's courage. Courage doesn't pay the credit card bill." She didn't have an answer for that. On day 22 after launch, Alex's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, expecting it to be a bill collector. "Hello? Hi, is this Alex? The person who made Simple Stock?" It was a woman's voice. Older, warm. "Yes, that's me. My name is Patricia. I own a small restaurant downtown. I've been using your software for the past 3 weeks." Alex sat up straighter. "Patricia." He remembered her sign-up. "She ran an Italian place. I hope everything's working okay?" Alex said cautiously. "Working okay? Honey, this software saved my sanity. Do you know I was tracking inventory on paper? In 2023. I'd spend every Sunday night counting jars of sauce and boxes of pasta. Now it takes me 20 minutes on my phone." 20 minutes! Alex felt something unfamiliar. Was it hope? "I'm so glad it's helpful," he managed to say. "Helpful? It's a miracle. Listen, I'm part of the Downtown Business Association. We have about 40 members. Restaurant owners, shop owners, all small businesses like mine. We meet every month. Can you come to our next meeting and show everyone this software?" Alex's heart was pounding. "You want me to present to 40 business owners?" "If you're interested. We're always looking for tools that can help our members, and this one actually works without requiring a computer science degree to figure out." "Yes," Alex said immediately. "Yes, I'll be there." "When is it?" "Next Thursday at 6. I'll text you the address." "Oh, and Alex, thank you for making something for people like us, the little guys. Nobody ever thinks about us." After she hung up, Alex just sat there, phone in his hand, trying to process what had just happened. The next Thursday, Alex put on his one good shirt and a tie he borrowed from a neighbor. He showed up at the Downtown Business Association meeting 30 minutes early, laptop under his arm, palms sweating. Patricia greeted him like an old friend. "Everyone's excited to see what you got," she said, leading him to a small conference room. The business owners filed in. Restaurant owners in their work clothes, still smelling like their kitchens. Shop owners with paint on their hands and tired eyes. These were his people. People who worked hard, who struggled with the same problems his family had struggled with. Alex set up his laptop and projector with shaking hands. Then he started talking. He didn't use fancy business words or complicated presentations. He just showed them the problem he'd noticed. How tracking inventory manually wasted time and money. How expensive software wasn't built for small businesses. How Simple Stock was different. Then he did a live demonstration. He showed how to add products, how to track sales, how to set automatic reorder alerts, how to see which items were profitable and which weren't. The room was silent. Then someone raised their hand. "How much does this cost?" $25 per month. "First month free to try it." Whispers spread through the room. Someone laughed in disbelief. $25? The software I looked at wanted $300 per month. "I built this specifically for small businesses," Alex explained. "I know what it's like to watch every dollar." This needed to be affordable. After the presentation, people crowded around him. They had questions. They wanted to sign up. They wanted his contact information. Patricia stood in the back, beaming like a proud parent. By the time Alex left that night, 23 business owners had signed up for the free trial right there in the room. 23. Over the next 2 weeks, 18 of them converted to paid subscriptions. Patricia kept spreading the word. She told her friends. They told their friends. The Facebook group for local businesses suddenly had posts about Simple Stock. Someone wrote a review on a small business forum. The sign-ups started coming faster, 5 per day, then 10, then 20. Alex could barely keep up with the customer support emails. People had questions. They needed help. They wanted new features. It was overwhelming, but in the best possible way. 3 months after that presentation, Alex had 200 paying customers. 200 businesses paying $25 per month. That was $5,000 per month, more than he'd ever made at the garage. More than he'd made building websites. He paid off the credit card. He bought his mother a new coat because hers had holes in it. He took Amy shopping for new school supplies. For the first time in his life, Alex had breathing room, but the growth didn't stop. 6 months after the presentation, Alex had 2,000 customers across 3 states. The word of mouth was organic, authentic. Small business owners helping other small business owners by sharing a tool that actually worked for them. Alex had to make decisions. Should he hire help? The customer support alone was taking up all his time. Should he add features? People kept requesting new capabilities. Should he raise the price? Business advisors online said he was charging too little. One evening, Alex ran into someone from his old high school. They'd been in the same grade before Alex dropped out. Now they were in college studying business. "Hey, didn't you drop out?" the former classmate asked, recognition in their eyes. "Yeah," Alex said. "That's rough. What are you doing now?" "Running a software company." The classmate laughed, thinking it was a joke. Then they saw Alex wasn't laughing. The smile faded. "Wait, seriously?" "Seriously." Alex walked away, leaving them standing there confused. He didn't feel angry or bitter. He felt something else, something he hadn't felt in years. He felt proud. Proud of the path he'd taken. Proud of what he'd built. Proud that he'd turned pain into purpose. And this was just the beginning. Alex turned 23 in a way he never could have imagined. His software company, Simple Stock, now served over 5,000 small businesses across 15 states. The revenue had grown to numbers that seemed unreal when he looked at the bank statements, but numbers on a screen didn't drive him anymore. Something else did. It started with an email from a venture capital firm. They'd been watching his company's growth and wanted to talk about investment opportunities. Alex had no idea what that really meant, so he spent a week researching. What he learned fascinated and scared him in equal measure. These investors wanted to give him millions of dollars to grow faster. But they'd own part of his company. They'd have opinions about how he ran things. They'd expect aggressive growth and eventual profits that made their investment worthwhile. Alex took 3 meetings with different firms. They all said similar things. His software had potential. The market was huge. He should raise prices, expand faster, hire aggressive sales teams, scale up. During the 3rd meeting, a young investor in an expensive suit said something that stuck with Alex. "You're leaving so much money on the table. You could be charging $50, even $75 per month. These small businesses would still pay it." "But they don't need to pay that much," Alex replied. $25 works. The investor laughed like Alex had told a joke. "This isn't charity. It's business. You should maximize value extraction." Value extraction. The phrase made Alex's stomach turn. These weren't values to extract. They were people. People like Patricia and Mr. Chen and all the others who'd trusted him with their businesses. But one firm was different. They understood what Alex was trying to build. They respected his pricing model. They wanted to help him grow without losing the mission that made Simple Stock special. After months of negotiations, Alex made a decision. He sold his company for $8.2 million. $8,200,000. When the money hit his account, Alex just stared at the number. He was a millionaire, him, the kid who'd dropped out of school, the kid who'd worked at a garage with grease under his fingernails, the kid who'd eaten 1 meal a day to make his savings last. His first call was to his mother. She was at work at the dental office. "Mom, can you take a break? Is everything okay?" Her voice immediately filled with worry. "Everything's perfect. I need to tell you something. I sold the company." Silence. "Mom? You sold it, but why?" "It was doing so well. It was the right time. And Mom, the amount they paid." He took a deep breath. $8.2 million. He heard something fall in the background. Then his mother's voice, shaking. What? Alex, that's not funny. I'm not joking. Check your bank account. I just transferred enough to pay off the mortgage completely. And the car loan. And every other bill we have. His mother started crying. Alex heard her co-workers asking if she was okay. Through the tears, she kept saying, my boy, my brilliant boy. Alex paid off his mother's mortgage that day. He set up a college fund for Amy that would cover any school she wanted to attend. He bought his mother a reliable car to replace the 15-year-old one that broke down every other month. He donated to the library where he'd spent countless hours learning to code. But after all that, he still had more money than he knew what to do with. And he felt empty. The company was sold. His family was taken care of. He could retire at 23 and live comfortably forever. But then what? Play video games? Travel the world? Buy expensive things he didn't need? Alex thought about those 3 years between dropping out and creating Simple Stock. The hopelessness he'd felt. The belief that he'd ruined his life forever by leaving school. The shame when old classmates saw him working at the garage. He thought about how many other kids were in that same position right now. Stuck, believing they had no options. No future, and then he knew what he needed to do. Alex spent 3 months planning. He researched. He talked to educators. He talked to other dropouts who'd found success through unconventional paths. He talked to social workers who dealt with at-risk youth. Then he rented a space in a rough part of town. The same neighborhood where he'd grown up. The same streets where he'd walk to the garage every morning, feeling like a failure. He called it Second Chance Academy, a coding school specifically for high school dropouts, at-risk youth, and anyone who'd been told they weren't good enough for traditional education. The program was simple. Free classes, free computers, free internet, 6 months of intensive training in web development, software engineering, and technology skills that actually led to jobs. No requirements except commitment and willingness to work hard. Alex didn't hire typical teachers. He hired people with stories like his, people who'd taken unconventional paths, a self-taught programmer who'd been homeless, a woman who'd learned to code while working night shifts at a gas station, a man who'd spent time in prison and taught himself programming in the library afterward. The first class started with 15 students. Alex met each one personally. There was a 17-year-old girl who'd dropped out to take care of her sick grandmother, a 20-year-old who'd failed in traditional school because of undiagnosed learning disabilities, a 19-year-old father trying to support his baby. They all had that same look Alex remembered seeing in the mirror. Fear. Doubt. Oh, tiny flicker of hope they were afraid to acknowledge because hope hurt when it died. Alex stood in front of that first class on opening day and told them his story. All of it. The principal's office, the garage, the library, the maxed out credit card, the nights he wanted to give up. I'm not here to tell you dropping out was good, he said. It wasn't. It was hard. It sucked. But I'm here to tell you that it's not the end. Your path can be different. Your path can be exactly what you need it to be. The program was intense. Students worked long hours. Some quit in the first week. Others struggled but pushed through. Alex was there constantly, helping debug code, explaining concepts, bringing in pizza when everyone was too stressed to break for dinner. After 6 months, 12 students completed the program. Alex helped all 12 find jobs, some at local companies, some doing freelance work. One joined Alex's new startup, a consulting company he'd created to keep building tools for small businesses. The local news ran a story about Second Chance Academy. Then a national tech blog picked it up. The headline read, "Millionaire Dropout Creates Free Coding School for At-Risk Youth." Suddenly, Alex was getting calls from across the country. Other cities wanted to start similar programs. Donors wanted to contribute. Companies wanted to hire his graduates. Within 2 years, Second Chance Academy had trained over 300 students. The success rate was remarkable. 80% found jobs in tech within 6 months of graduating. Not just any jobs. Real careers. Paths forward. Alex expanded. He opened locations in 3 more cities. He created an online program for people who couldn't attend in person. He started a mentorship network connecting his graduates with professionals in the industry. One day, Alex got an unexpected invitation. His old high school wanted him to speak at their career day. The same school where he'd signed those withdrawal papers 7 years ago. Alex stood in the same auditorium where he'd once sat as a student, feeling inadequate compared to his peers. Now he was on stage looking out at hundreds of teenagers. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He told them dropping out was one of the hardest things he'd ever done. He told them education mattered, that staying in school if possible was usually the better choice. But, he continued, I also learned that there's no single path to success. Some of you might follow the traditional route, graduate high school, go to college, get a good job. That's wonderful. But some of you might face challenges that force you onto a different path. And I need you to know that different doesn't mean worse. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means your journey looks different. He talked about persistence, about learning constantly, whether in a classroom or a library or late at night on a cheap laptop, about seeing problems as opportunities, about building things that help people. After his speech, students lined up to talk to him. Some wanted advice about coding, others wanted to know about his business. But one student, a quiet kid in the back, waited until everyone else left. I'm thinking about dropping out, the kid said quietly. My family needs money. I feel like I'm wasting time here when I could be working. Alex saw himself in this kid. The same desperation, the same guilt. What's your name? Alex asked. David. David, I can't tell you what to do. That's your decision and your family's decision. But I can tell you this. If you stay all the way. Commit to it. Use every resource this school offers. And if you leave, don't let anyone make you feel like you're done. You're just starting a different chapter. Alex gave David his card. Call me if you need help. Whether you stay or go. The academy has a program for current students too. We can work around school schedules. 3 years later, David graduated from Second Chance Academy's evening program. He'd stayed in high school but learned coding on the side. Now he worked as a junior developer at a tech company, making more than his parents combined. Stories like David's kept Alex going. Every success felt personal. Every graduate felt like proof that the system could work better. That second chances mattered, that how you started didn't determine how you'd finish. By the time Alex turned 26, Second Chance Academy had helped over 1,000 students. His consulting business was thriving. He'd been featured in magazines and podcasts. People called him inspiring. But Alex didn't feel like a success story or an inspiration. He felt like someone who'd been given an opportunity and decided to pass it forward. Someone who'd stumbled onto a truth. That talent exists everywhere, but opportunity doesn't, and sometimes all people needed was someone to believe in them and give them the tools to believe in themselves. He still drove through his old neighborhood sometimes. Past the garage where Eddie had given him a chance. Past the library where he'd learned his first lines of code. Past the house where his mother still lived, mortgage-free with a garden she finally had time to tend. And every time Alex felt grateful. Not for the money or the recognition, but for the struggle, for the hard years that taught him what mattered, for the pain that showed him who he wanted to be. Because that kid in the principal's office signing away his education with shaking hands had no idea what he was capable of. Had no idea that his lowest moment was actually the beginning of his greatest achievement. That kid was terrified. But he didn't give up, and that made all the difference. 10 years after dropping out of high school, Alex stood in front of a room full of investors, entrepreneurs, and tech leaders. He'd been invited to speak at a major technology conference. The same kind of conference where people usually talked about billion-dollar valuations and disrupting industries. But Alex wasn't there to talk about money. The moderator introduced him with a long list of accomplishments. Successful entrepreneur, philanthropist, founder of Second Chance Academy. The applause was polite but measured. These people had heard plenty of success stories before. Alex took the microphone and started with a question. How many of you have a college degree? Almost every hand in the room went up. How many of you came from families where college was just expected? Not a dream, but an expectation? Most hands stayed up. Then you can't fully understand what I'm about to tell you, because you've never had to choose between your education and your family's survival. You've never felt the shame of being called a dropout. You've never had people look at you like you're broken because you took a different path. The room went quiet. Alex had their attention now. He told his story again, but this time he went deeper. He talked about the mental health struggles nobody had seen, the depression that came from feeling like a failure at 16, The anxiety attacks he'd had while working at the garage, afraid he'd be stuck there forever. The imposter syndrome that still sometimes whispered that he didn't belong in rooms like this one. Success didn't fix those feelings, Alex admitted. Making money didn't erase years of being told I'd ruined my life. Even now, sometimes I meet someone and when they ask where I went to college, I feel that old shame creeping back. He paused, looking around the room. But here's what I learned. That shame is a lie. It's a story we tell ourselves because society has one narrow definition of success. But there are millions of people out there with talent, intelligence, and drive who will never fit that definition, and we're failing them. After the speech, something unexpected happened. People didn't just clap and move on to the next speaker. They lined up to talk to Alex, but these weren't students or dropouts seeking advice. These were successful business leaders, and they had a different kind of story to share. A woman in her 40s, CEO of a marketing firm, waited until the crowd cleared. "I never told anyone this," she said quietly, "but I dropped out of college. Twice. I built my company anyway, but I still lie about having a degree on my LinkedIn profile. I'm terrified someone will find out." A man who'd founded a successful startup admitted he'd gotten his GED instead of a traditional diploma. "My investors don't know. I'm afraid they'd lose confidence in me if they found out." One after another, successful people shared their hidden stories. Alternative paths they'd taken, struggles they'd overcome, secrets they kept because they feared judgment. Alex realized something that day. The problem wasn't just helping people who were currently struggling. It was changing the entire conversation about what success looked like and how people achieved it. He started writing. Not social media posts or blog entries, but a real book. He wanted to tell not just his story, but the stories of dozens of others who'd taken unconventional paths. People who'd succeeded without following the traditional script. The writing process took 2 years. Alex interviewed over 100 people. A self-taught programmer who became a senior engineer at a major tech company. A high school dropout who built a multi-million-dollar construction business. A woman who'd been homeless at 19 and now ran a successful nonprofit. A man who'd spent time in prison and emerged to create a thriving consulting firm. Each story was different, but they all shared common threads. Resilience, creativity, a refusal to let circumstances define their futures, and almost all of them dealt with shame and secrecy about their paths. The book, titled Different Roads, came out when Alex was 28. He didn't know what to expect. Maybe a few thousand copies sold, maybe some nice reviews. What happened instead shocked him. The book hit bestseller list within 2 weeks. Not because of clever marketing or celebrity endorsements, but because it spoke to something people desperately needed to hear, that their worth wasn't determined by their credentials. That struggle could be a teacher. That different didn't mean less. Alex started getting emails. Hundreds per day, then thousands. Parents thanking him for helping them understand their kids' choices. Young people saying they finally felt seen. Educators rethinking how they measured potential. But one email stood out. It was from Principal Henderson, the man who'd processed Alex's withdrawal papers 10 years earlier. "I've thought about you often over the years," the principal wrote. "I wondered if I'd failed you somehow, if I should have fought harder to make you stay. Your book helped me understand that sometimes our job isn't to keep everyone on the same path. It's to help them find their own path and believe in themselves while they walk it. Thank you for teaching this old educator something new," Alex called him that evening. They talked for over an hour. The principal shared how he'd started a program at the school connecting students who were struggling with mentors from non-traditional backgrounds. How he'd created more flexible options for kids who needed to work while finishing their education. "You changed how I see my job," Principal Henderson said. "I used to think success was measured by graduation rates and college acceptances. Now I understand it's about helping each student find what they need, even if it doesn't fit my expectations." Second Chance Academy continued to grow. Alex opened 12 locations across the country. But he also started working with traditional schools, helping them create pathways for students who needed alternatives. Not as replacements for education, but as supplements, ways to gain real skills while staying in school or after leaving. He created partnerships with companies willing to hire based on skills rather than degrees. Tech firms, yes, but also manufacturing companies, healthcare organizations, creative agencies, anywhere that talent mattered more than credentials. Amy graduated from college with honors. She'd majored in education and immediately joined Second Chance Academy as a program director. Working alongside her brother, she brought new perspectives about how to reach young people who'd lost faith in the system. "I watched what you went through," she told Alex one day. "I saw how hard it was. But I also saw how it shaped you into someone who actually cares about helping people, not just making money. That's what I want to do too." Their mother retired from the dental office. She'd worked there for over 20 years, but now she didn't have to anymore. She volunteered at the academy 3 days a week, helping with administrative work and being a presence that students gravitated toward. Someone who understood struggle. Someone who'd raised kids who'd faced real hardships. Alex started a podcast called Unconventional Paths. Each episode featured someone who'd succeeded outside traditional routes. Not just entrepreneurs and tech founders, but artists, tradespeople, community organizers, inventors, people doing meaningful work regardless of their educational credentials. The show found an audience hungry for these stories. Millions of downloads. Listeners who felt validated, who felt seen, who realized they weren't alone in feeling like they didn't fit the traditional mold. But with visibility came criticism. Some people accused Alex of encouraging kids to drop out. Education advocates worried he was undermining the importance of formal schooling. Traditional educators felt attacked by his message. Alex addressed this head-on in a controversial episode. "I'm not anti-education," he said clearly. "I'm pro-opportunity. I'm pro-flexibility. I'm pro-recognizing that one size doesn't fit all. If you can stay in school, if you can go to college, if that path works for you, that's wonderful. But if it doesn't work, if circumstances force you onto a different road, I want you to know you're not broken. You're not less than, you just have a different journey." He brought in educators, counselors, and researchers to have nuanced conversations about education reform, about how to support struggling students before they reach the point of dropping out, about creating more pathways within traditional systems, about measuring success in broader terms. The conversations weren't always comfortable, but they were necessary. By the time Alex turned 30, over 5,000 people had gone through Second Chance Academy's programs. The success stories were remarkable. A single mother who'd learned coding and now worked remotely, able to stay home with her kids. A veteran who'd struggled to transition to civilian life and found purpose in tech. A teenager who'd aged out of foster care and built a career in web development. But Alex was proudest of the failures. The students who tried, struggled, and realized coding wasn't for them. Because even those students learned something valuable. They learned they could try. They learned that attempting something difficult didn't diminish them. They learned that one path not working didn't mean all paths were closed. The academy started offering programs in other fields. Digital marketing, graphic design, project management, cybersecurity, any skill that could lead to stable employment and didn't require traditional credentials. Alex's net worth had grown significantly over the years through smart investments and new ventures. But he lived modestly, same neighborhood where he grew up, though he'd bought and renovated his mother's old house. He drove a reliable car, not a luxury vehicle. He wore jeans and t-shirts to most meetings. "Why don't you enjoy your success more?" a journalist asked him once. "You've earned it. You could live anywhere, do anything." Alex thought about that question for a moment. "I do enjoy it. Just not the way you mean. I enjoy knowing that a kid who feels hopeless today might not feel hopeless tomorrow because of something we built. I enjoy watching someone discover they're capable of more than they believed. That's what success feels like to me now. The rest is just noise." He thought often about that 16-year-old kid sitting in the principal's office, terrified he was destroying his future. If he could talk to that version of himself, what would he say? Probably not that everything would work out, because that would be too simple. It didn't just work out. It was hard. It was painful. There were years of struggle and doubt and fear. Instead, he'd tell that kid, "You're stronger than you know. The path ahead won't look like what you expected, but it will be yours. And someday, you'll use everything you learned from this pain to help others. So feel the fear. Let yourself grieve for the life you thought you'd have. But then get up tomorrow and take the next step. And the next one, and the one after that. Because you're not ending your story. You're just starting a different chapter."